History is often presented as a grand parade of victories, brilliant inventions, and charismatic leaders. We learn about kings and queens, epic battles, and glorious empires. But what if I told you that this is only half the story? What if the history we are taught is a carefully curated version, polished to shine, while the darker, more uncomfortable truths are deliberately swept under the rug? Beneath this sanitized surface lies a far more complex and often brutal reality. A reality filled with injustice, immense suffering, and oppression. These are the stories of the silenced, the marginalized, and the forgotten, the dark history they never taught you in school. For centuries, the narrative of the past has been controlled by the victors, the conquerors, and the powerful. They wrote the textbooks, built the monuments, and decided which stories were worth telling. This wasn't just an accident. It was a way to justify their actions, maintain their power, and shape our collective memory. As a result, entire chapters of human experience have been distorted, minimized, or completely erased. Let's take one of the most glaring examples, the transatlantic slave trade. We might learn the basic facts, that millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and sold into slavery in the Americas. But do we truly grasp the sheer scale of this atrocity? Do our textbooks convey the unimaginable horror of the Middle Passage, where human beings were chained and packed into ships like cargo, dying from disease, starvation, and despair? Do we explore the centuries of brutal labor, the tearing apart of families, and the systemic dehumanization that followed? The legacy of this trade isn't just a historical footnote. Its echoes are still felt today in deep-seated racial inequalities and social injustices. Similarly, consider the histories of indigenous peoples around the globe. Across continents, their lands were stolen, their cultures systematically dismantled, and their populations decimated by violence and foreign diseases. In North America, Australia, and elsewhere, treaties were signed only to be broken. Children were forcibly taken from their families and sent to residential schools designed to erase their language, their beliefs, and their very identity. This wasn't just a byproduct of colonization. It was a deliberate policy of cultural genocide. Yet, these stories are often relegated to the sidelines, presented as a sad but inevitable consequence of progress, rather than the profound and ongoing trauma that it is. But the darkness isn't limited to colonization and slavery. Think about the witch hunts that swept through Europe and North America. This wasn't just a quirky, superstitious phase. It was a period of mass hysteria and brutal persecution, where tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were accused, tortured, and executed based on fear and misogyny. It's a chilling reminder of how easily societal paranoia, fueled by those in power, can lead to devastating violence against the innocent. Yet, we often treat it more like folklore than a serious historical tragedy. And what about war? We study the great wars of the 20th century, focusing on strategies, alliances, and turning points. But do we truly confront the human cost? The First World War introduced the industrial-scale slaughter of trench warfare, where millions of young men perished in mud and filth for a few inches of ground. The Second World War brought the horrors of the Holocaust, the firebombing of entire cities, and the atomic bombs that vaporized Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These events brought about a level of devastation previously unimaginable. Focusing only on the grand strategies and outcomes can make us forget that behind every statistic was a human life, a family shattered, a future destroyed. This hidden history also includes systemic oppression woven into the fabric of societies for centuries. Segregation and apartheid laws that legally separated people by race. Forced sterilization programs that targeted marginalized communities. Internment camps where citizens were imprisoned simply because of their ancestry. These weren't isolated incidents. They were state-sanctioned policies of exclusion and violence. These parts of history are often glossed over because they challenge the very myths our nations are built on. Confronting these uncomfortable truths can be painful. It forces us to question national pride and the heroic narratives we've grown up with. It's much easier to celebrate independence and freedom without acknowledging that for many, those ideals were built on stolen land and forced labor. But ignoring this dark history doesn't make it go away. In fact, it allows the old wounds to fester and prevents us from achieving true reconciliation and justice. Without understanding the roots of inequality, we can never hope to solve the problems we face in the present. Thankfully, things are starting to change. A growing movement of historians, educators, and activists is working tirelessly to uncover these suppressed stories. They are digging through archives, listening to oral histories, and demanding that we include the perspectives of those who have been silenced. By amplifying the voices of the oppressed, we gain a much richer, more honest understanding of our shared past. We learn not just about their suffering, but also about their incredible resilience, their acts of resistance, and their fight for survival and dignity. Learning about the dark side of history isn't meant to make us feel guilty or ashamed. It's about developing empathy and a more complete understanding of humanity. It reminds us that progress is not inevitable. It's a constant struggle between power and resistance, justice and injustice. This fuller picture empowers us. It equips us to recognize the warning signs of oppression, to challenge harmful narratives, and to be more conscious citizens of the world. So, the next time you encounter a story from the past, I encourage you to dig deeper. Ask yourself, whose voice is telling this story? Whose voice is missing? Look for the stories hidden in the shadows, the perspectives that challenge the comfortable, mainstream narrative. Because it is only by confronting the darkness of our history that we can truly appreciate the light. It's how we learn, how we grow, and how we can work together to build a more just and equitable future for everyone. Thank you for watching. If this video made you think, please consider liking it and subscribing for more content that challenges the way we see the world. See you next time.